One of the really powerful tools of PowerPoint 210 on the PC is the ability to put bookmarks in audio and video soundtracks. These bookmarks can then be used as a trigger to make things happen on the screen. I will try to illustrate that with this screen. I've taken the same idea that we had before of a Terry stop, the same picture, and I have inserted also on the screen the items on the left: reasonable suspicion, limited search. So rather than text paragraphs, I just have some bullet points, and I want to use narration to expand these. In order to use the narration, I'm going to go here and I'm going to go up to the Insert menu, and then I'm going to go over here to Media, and I'm going to insert an audio from the file. I previously recorded this, so if we go here, it goes to my file, and here's my WAV file that I recorded earlier. I'm going to insert that here in my screen. So now I have this little speaker here that indicates that I have an audio. When I play this, you can hear the audio. In the United States, a Terry stop is a brief detention. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to insert some bookmarks in this audio. So I'm going to go up here to Playback, and on the Playback, up here it says Bookmarks. I'm going to come down here where I can add a bookmark, and now I can say I'm going to play this, and then when I get to a spot where I want to put a bookmark, I'm going to pause it and insert a bookmark. So if I start to play it, by police on reasonable suspicion. Alright, so there's the first part. It says reasonable suspicion. I want that to appear. Now I'm going to continue to play and put some more bookmarks in of involvement in criminal activity, but short of probable cause to arrest. The name derives from Terry versus Ohio, in which the Supreme Court of the United States held that police may briefly detain a person whom they reasonably suspect is involved in criminal activity. The court also held that police may do a limited... Okay, here's the next item. It says limited search, so I want that to appear when it starts to talk about that. Search of the person's outer garments for weapons if they have a reasonable and articulable suspicion that the person detained may be armed and dangerous. When a search for weapons is authorized, the procedure is known as stop and frisk. In determining whether a Terry stop is justified, Alright, so now we're going to talk about the justification. So I want these to be bookmarks, so I'm going to add a bookmark here so it says justified at the inception. Inquiry involves two steps: whether the officer's action was justified at its inception, and then I'm going to add a bookmark for the second one here, and whether it was reasonably related in scope to the circumstances which justified the interference in the first place. The initial stop requires reasonable suspicion, which must be rooted in a particularized and objective basis for suspecting illegal conduct on the part of the person stopped. Alright, now there's some other things we could do here. We could actually trim this video, we can actually edit it just a little, but for our purposes we've added some bookmarks. Now what we want is these items over here on the left to appear when the bookmarks come, but we also want this click for narration to trigger the narration. So over here I'm going to turn this, I'm in the animation pane, I'm going to take this off, I'm going to take this little animation now, and I'm going to say I want to go to animations, I want to add animation, and now I want to play this, and I want this triggered when we click on text box 10. I already know that click for narration is text box 10. That's going to start the narration. Now one of the things I can do here is when if I don't want that to show up, then I can come here and say hide during the show. That was under Playback, and that will hide this little speaker, so only when they click on narration will it play. Now the next thing I want to do is I want this to appear, so I'm going to go to animations again, I'm going to have this appear, and I want this triggered by the first bookmark. So I come down here to bookmarks, this is a trigger, I can go there. I want the second one to appear, I'm going to appear, trigger on the second bookmark. The third one the same way, make it appear, triggered on the third bookmark, and so forth for the last one. Alright, now when we go to the playback now, what we should get is when I click here, the narration says start. In the United States, a Terry stop is a brief detention of a person by police on reasonable suspicion of involvement in criminal
Now
activity,
you notice that
but
it
short of
popped up
probable
here
cause
over
to
the top.
arrest. The name derives from Terry versus Ohio, in which the Supreme Court of the United States held that police may briefly detain a person whom they reasonably suspect is involved in criminal activity. The court also held that police may do a limited search of the person's outer garments for weapons if they have a reasonable and articulable suspicion that the person detained may be armed and dangerous. When a search for weapons is authorized, the procedure is known as stop and frisk. In determining whether a Terry stop is justified, the inquiry involves two steps.
And here you can see
whether the officer's action was justified at its
pop up each
inception,
of our items as
and
we
whether
want
it was
that to
reasonable.
happen. This is a very, very powerful technique because if you'll notice in this whole little PowerPoint that I've created on doing animations in PowerPoint, I have used this extensively. Only in this case, I had videos, and I can do the exact same thing on the audio part of the video track. And so during most of what you've seen in this PowerPoint presentation on how to do PowerPoint, you have seen me use pop-up of keywords during the narration. So I've used this extensively. A very, very powerful tool in creating instructional PowerPoint.